Hello, I'm Brian Tracy, and welcome to this session on selling. You know, we're all in the business of influencing customer behavior in some way. In fact, we're all in the business of influencing other people's behavior in some way. In life, we have a choice. We can either be the influencer or the influencee. We can either be the person who influences others and gets them to do the things that we want, or we can get others to influence us and we do the things that they want. In this session, we're going to ask the question, why is it that some customers buy faster than others, and some customers buy slower, and some customers don't buy at all? Now, an enormous amount of research has been done in this subject to find out what makes people tick. And since you're a customer, I'm a customer, everybody's a customer, these same factors work on you and they work on me every single day. They are the essence of all persuasive and influential messages, the essences of all advertising and promotion, whether it's in print or newspaper, television, radio, or anything else. So, why do some customers buy faster, and how can we use these ideas to help people make quick decisions? And why do some customers buy slower, and how can we pull the plug on that slowdown, if you like, and get them to buy our products or services? Well, what we know is this, is that each customer you deal with has deep subconscious needs. They have deep subconscious needs, and it is only when you tap into these deep subconscious needs, very much like an oil well driller drilling into the deep pockets that gets the gusher. It's only when you hit a need, like touching a nerve, that you cause people to actually respond to your offering. Some of the things are called buying influences. Now, we know enough from experimentation and articles that have been written and studies and your own experience, and being a customer yourself, you'll recognize these, and so they won't be able to be used on you. We know that there are buying influences that short-circuit the decision-making process. Let me give you an example. Let us say that this is a clock, okay, and it starts up at 12, and the normal decision-making process has to go through, whether it's a week, a month, several months, and so on, it has to go around a long cycle of meetings and follow-up meetings and proposals and presentations and difficulties and so on. What if you could find a way to take this to 1 o'clock and it went shh, bang, and the customer bought at that point? You could short-circuit the process almost like pushing a button or triggering a wire. Well, one of the things we know is this, is all top salespeople have learned how to short-circuit the decision-making process. One of the things we know is that customers are lazy, just like you're lazy and I'm lazy. Customers are always looking for ways to get from where they are to where they want to go quickly. And they're looking for indications and cues that salespeople and companies can provide that help them to make a decision to move or not to move. So sometimes the customer can be completely uninterested in what you're talking about, but if you touch the right button, they'll change almost instantly and be ready to buy. So let's start with the most important of these buying influences, or what we call triggers. These triggers that you can pull that make such a difference. The first one is called reciprocity and obligation. Now, reciprocity and obligation comes from some of the work by Robert Cacciano at the University of Arizona in Tucson. Reciprocity and obligation are the number ones. They're the tops of the hit parade. They are the ones that have the greatest influence on us. And let me explain what I mean. Reciprocity has to do with you do something for me, I do something for you. It's based as far back as the law of sowing and reaping, the law of cause and effect, Newton's law of action and reaction. Reciprocity and obligation says that if you do something for me, I do something for you. If you take me out for lunch, I take you out for lunch. If you send me a Christmas card, I send you a Christmas card. If you buy me a drink, I buy you a drink, and so on. Our entire society is based on a general understanding of reciprocity and obligation. Our whole law of contract in our society says the party of the first part will do A, and the party of the second part will do B, in which case the party of the third part will do C, and the party of the second part, if you like, will do D, and so on. In other words, a contract is a written agreement for reciprocity and obligation. If I do this, you owe it to me. If we don't fulfill our understandings or agreements under the contract, what we do is we breach the contract and we make ourselves liable to action of all kinds. Now, the reason why this is so powerful is that in any normal person, we like to stay even. You and I like to stay even. We don't want to feel under obligation to someone else. We want to reciprocate. If you do something for me, I feel a burden. I feel like I owe you one. And I don't like the feeling of owing you one. So I want to get out from under this burden of owing you one by doing something back that evens the score. This, by the way, is one of the most important of all psychological factors. It takes place in relationships. Your children do something for you, you owe them something. Your spouse does something for you, you owe your spouse something. Your boss does something for you, and so on. Everything is reciprocal. If we don't reciprocate, it's like playing table tennis. We don't hit the ball back, and the game will stop. So, with regard to reciprocation, there is what is called emotional reciprocation or reciprocity. This says simply, if you make me feel good in some way, I'm going to make you feel good. If you compliment me or compliment my work or say something that flatters me or my business and you make me feel happy about myself and my life, well, I want to make you feel happy as well. That's why you often see the case where a person says, well, you look very good today. You'll say, thank you, you look good too. And I hope you had a good time on the weekend. Yes, did you have a good time on the weekend too? In other words, it goes back and forth. We always want to continue to reciprocate. Well, the second type of reciprocity that we're common with is, that we're familiar with, is physical reciprocity. Physical reciprocity is often financial. You loan me something, I'll lend you something. You do something for me, I'll do something for you. You lend me money when I need it, I'll lend you money when you need it. You let me use your condominium, I'll let you use my motorhome, and so on. We like to reciprocate because we want to get out from under this sense of obligation. Now, as a clever salesperson, if you want to influence other people, what you want to do is you want to put them under a sense of obligation to you. You want to do things for them that cause them to want to reciprocate, and as it happens, as a salesperson, you have the very way that they can reciprocate, they can buy something from you. So here's 3 keys that cause people to want to reciprocate by buying your product or service. And I know people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year using these simple keys. Number 1 is very simple, is do favors and kindnesses for your prospects and for your clients. Harvey Mackay has become famous with his Mackay 66, where he sends birthday cards and anniversary cards and Thanksgiving cards and Christmas cards and Easter cards and so on, because he finds out what the critical dates are in his customers and his prospects' lives, and then he constantly sends them little things. He sends them tickets to their favorite game. He sends them news clippings about their hometown. He sends them magazine subscriptions to subjects that they enjoy. So finally they reach the point where, boy, they really feel like they kind of owe this company a lot, and they keep buying from them year after year. Now, a second thing that you can do is lunches and breakfasts. Lunches, by the way, are almost out now, but power breakfasts, where you invite a customer to meet you for breakfast, and then you pick up the tab, and the best way to do this, by the way, is to leave your credit card, pay it all so no bill ever comes to the table. When you meet a prospect, invite them for breakfast. You see, here's the wonderful thing about breakfast. Virtually no one has any plans for breakfast because they can't say, I'm sorry, I'm tied up, I'm busy. Lunch maybe, dinner maybe, but breakfast, they'll have breakfast with you. At breakfast, all you do is you buy them something. What we have found is this, is that if you sit with a person and break bread and eat, after a person has eaten, they have a general feeling of well-being. They feel kind of happy inside. And that happiness kind of spreads to whoever's with them at the table. So you don't even have to make a sales pitch at your breakfast meeting. Just have breakfast and say, look, I'll get together with you. I'll give you a call in a couple of days. When you do, you'll be surprised. They'll be very open to seeing you. And the third thing that you can do is thank you notes. Thank you notes and thank you cards are very, very powerful. In fact, if you wanted to change your whole career, just go out and make sure you talk to 10 people each day and send 10 thank you cards each night. And I promise you, within 90 days, you'll have sent out 222 days. You'll have sent out about 600 to 700 thank you cards. And for the next 2 to 5 years, you'll be doing business with those people. Because why? When a person receives a thank you card, thank you for the time, thank you for the information, thank you for listening to me, thank you for talking to me, thank you for the proposal. Whatever you say thank you for, people think warmly towards you, and they feel deep down inside that, I like that person, I kind of owe them something. And when you come around with a product offering, they're open to it. Now here's the next real trigger that gets people to act, and it's called commitment and consistency. Commitment and consistency is based on our understanding of human nature, is that first of all, we commit very slowly to things. And the more complicated our lives are, the more slowly we commit. But second of all, we strive to remain consistent with what we've done and said in the past. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds." We become so concerned about being consistent with what we've done and said in the past that we'll often get ourselves into a box and into situations in the future which are not consistent with our best efforts. So, here are the key principles with commitment and consistency. First is what we call incremental commitment. When you call a customer and you say, "Hello, I'm Brian Tracy and I'm from ABC Company," you know what they say? They say, "I'm not interested." And you know what you answer? It's very simple. You say, "I didn't think you'd be interested. That's why I'm calling." Of course they're not interested. They're at 0 in terms of commitment. They need to be at 100 in terms of commitment to buy your product, and never seen or heard of you before. So therefore, you say, "That's okay. Most people we talk to for the first time are not interested at all until they learn what we can do for them." "Oh, that's okay. Almost everybody we talk to for the first time is not interested in what we're talking about, but they become our best customers." In other words, you expect that people will not initially be interested in you, and what you have to do is arrange a meeting. Because once a person has invested time with you, they have a little bit of commitment. Once they've given you some information and you've asked and got some questions and got some answers, they have more commitment. Once you've done a proposal and you've come back and you've analyzed their situation, given recommendations, they incrementally work themselves into a total commitment. Now, we know that we strive to remain consistent with what we've done and said in the past. This is why if you do a very good sales presentation, what you do is you ask a lot of questions about what they're doing, what they're looking for, what they're trying to accomplish, what they want, what they don't want, what they want more of, what they want less of, and so on. And then as you give your presentation, you point out that your product or service is consistent with what they said they wanted and they didn't want. If you've got children, you've always had the experience, you have it all the time, where the child will say, "Daddy, you promised. You promised to take me to the movie. You promised to take me to McDonald's. You promised to get me a toy." Now, you don't even remember when you promised to do it, but if you said that you would do it, by gum, you're going to remain consistent with what you said you would do. So, your job in commitment and consistency is to uncover the customer's buying strategy. Find out how they have bought a particular product or service in the past. Here's a good question. Have you ever bought one of these before? Have you ever bought one like this before? When you bought it before, how did you go about making your decision? I mean, what were the variables that determined whether or not you bought it? What was the process that you went through? And then whatever they explain to you as their buying process, you structure your selling strategy so that it's consistent with the way they buy. You show that your product or service is consistent with the needs and problems that they've identified. And you get them to move from no commitment to incremental commitment one step at a time over a series of meetings. And every time you have a meeting, of course, you send another thank you card. And you keep current with them. You keep on top of the situation. Here's another buying trigger. It's called social proof. Now, social proof is very powerful. Social proof is so powerful that it can make 80% or more of a sale. Social proof is a form of word-of-mouth advertising in a way, but social proof is based on your answering the question, who else has done it? Who else has done it? You see, nobody wants to be first, and nobody wants to make a mistake. Nobody wants to buy something that won't work. Nobody wants to get something that nobody else has used. When you tell the customer of other people who have bought the product or service, it comforts them and gives them the feeling that the product or service must be okay. If other people had bought the product or service, then I am safe in buying the product or service myself because it must be okay if all these people have bought it. We were selling our management training video library a couple of years ago, and I sat down with the company and said, well, we don't know if it's any good or not. And I simply took out a list that I had generated of something like 300 leading companies in the United States who were all using this training library. I said, here are some of the companies that are using it already. And I remained completely silent. And he sat there for a while, and he picked up the list and put it down, and he was starting to hem and haw about, well, I don't know if it'd be good for us. And finally he said, well, I guess it must be okay if all these other companies are using it. So here's the second part of similar others, of social proof. It's called similar others. Whenever you are going to see a customer or a prospect for the first time, check the files, talk with other people, find out who else in their same business or industry is already using the same product or service. You see, you and I are unduly influenced by learning that other people in our business, other people with our background, other people like us are already using the product or service. It means that it must be okay because other people like us have already passed judgment on it. Well, the third part of social proof is testimonials. Now, a testimonial is so powerful that we recommend that every single salesperson have a testimonial booklet with testimonial page letters in plasticized pages with the keywords highlighted, and they carry it around with them. Testimonials can be one of three kinds. They can be letters, which are letters from your clients that say, we bought your product or service and we liked it. It was very good. Or they can be lists, as I've told you, of all the different companies and individuals that use your product or service already. Or you can also use photographs. I know people who kind of have a whole testimonial booklet with a letter and a photograph of the customer using the product with a great big smile. And these people make 10 and 20 times as much as the average person who just goes around with their brochures and their sample case. So take an opportunity. We say that salespeople who don't use testimonials because they're so powerful, salespeople who don't use testimonials have skinny kids. Well, let's talk about some of the other buying influences that you can use. One of the most powerful of all, and any one of these can be all it takes to put the sale over the top. One of the most powerful of all is liking. We know that if a person likes you, they're going to be far more open to your influence. They're going to see your product or service as far better than it might be. They're going to be less sensitive to your price, and they're going to be more forgiving when you make the inevitable mistakes that you make with a long-term account. Remember, liking is based on emotions, and emotions distort valuations. People who feel emotional towards you do not have the ability to make clear, objective decisions. So your job is to be likable. Your job is to be likable. Your job is to have a positive mental attitude. Your job is to be cheerful and friendly. Your job is to smile and be the kind of person that people like to be around. We know that high self-esteem in salespeople leads to a positive mental attitude. High self-esteem is based on how much you like yourself, how much you respect yourself. We also know that salespeople who are continually working on themselves, reading books, listening to tapes, going to courses, watching programs like this, getting better in their field, have high self-esteem. They have greater self-confidence. They feel better about themselves, and as a result, they like themselves, and we know there's a one-to-one relationship. You can't like anybody else more than you like yourself. So if you really want to establish high-quality relationships with customers, you've got to have a high-quality relationship with yourself. If ever you have a bad day or a bad week and you feel down, you're going to find it very, very difficult to sell. And the third part of liking, the final part of liking, is what we call the friendship factor. And the friendship factor is really the key to success in all business, the key to success in all public life and selling. The friendship factor is based on the fact that a person won't buy from you unless they like you. And a person will not buy from you until he or she is convinced that you're acting in their best interests, that you like them, that you are their friend, and that you care about them as more than just a customer. Customers, I've reached the point today that if they don't like you, they won't buy from you, even if they want your product or service, even if it's the best price, even if it's the only one available. They won't buy it unless they like you. They won't buy it unless they consider you to be a friend. The word friend is used to describe the top 10% of salespeople in every field. Now, there's another wonderful buying trigger that is so powerful that sometimes it's used to sell millions and millions of dollars worth of products, and it's called authority. We, you and I, are unduly influenced by people in positions of authority. People in positions of authority carry weight with us. Whenever we hear of somebody who is important, who has used a product or service, it makes us open to using the product or service ourselves. As a matter of fact, sometimes a well-known actor or a well-known political figure can change their hairdo or wear a particular article of clothing or engage in a particular activity, and the whole country will start changing their hairdo, wearing those clothing, or engaging in that activity because we are so influenced by people who have authority, people who carry weight with us. So, the three keys to authority, number one is expertise. If you're looking at a new food or vitamin formulation and you're told that a Nobel Prize winner in nutrition or biology has recommended and uses this themselves, that's very impressive. Sometimes that's all that it takes. Here's an example. One of the highest paid athletes in America is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan makes millions of dollars a year in the Nike commercials. And the Nike people sell tens of millions of dollars a year worth of shoes because they've got him, one of the finest athletes in the world, on those commercials saying, just do it. When they go out to their shoe stores and they see shoes, they see the Nike commercial, they think of Michael Jordan, they respect Michael Jordan, and they say, eh, just do it. They buy the shoes. Another area of authority is publications. One of the most famous publications, of course, is Consumer Reports. A lot of people won't buy a product or service till they see it reviewed in Consumer Reports. Some people won't buy a product or service until they see it in a magazine and given a review. Some people won't see a movie. Some people won't do anything until they've seen it reviewed favorably. Also, radio and television. Any kind of third source that you can't buy acts as a very strong influence. And if you can mention, by the way, so-and-so uses our product and recommends it, or such and such a publication did a write-up on our product and recommended it, or number 3 is symbols of success. Symbols are things that you have. They're your clothing, your briefcase, your pen, your watch, your car, your shoes. When you look like a successful person and you recommend purchases to other people, they're far more likely to buy from you if you look like the kind of success that you're suggesting they could be if they followed your advice. Now, another major influence or buying trigger is called scarcity. Sometimes we don't even know how much we want it until it's scarce. If your product or service is scarce, then by all means, be sure to point that out to your prospective client. Something that is scarce implies that it's valuable. If it's scarce, it means lots of people want it. Sometimes when you say to a person, well, whether you buy this or not, you should know this is the last one available for 3 months. I'll take it. Sometimes people didn't even realize they want it until you threatened to take it away from them. It makes it more desirable. So it also increases or creates urgency. Sometimes the customer, if they believe that you've got an endless supply of the product or service, they're in no hurry. But you can get them to move quickly if you can imply that there's a limited time that the product is available, there's a limited quantity of the product available, or there's a limited quantity available at a certain price. How many times have you been induced to buy things by them saying it's going up in price at the end of the month, or this is the last one we have, or this is the last one in your color? So whenever you can imply scarcity for any reason, by all means do it, because often that's all that it takes to cause a person to act quickly. Another principle which causes people to buy is called the contrast principle. The contrast principle says that when you contrast 2 items with different prices, first higher and then lower, the lower priced item seems, by contrast, far cheaper than it was before. Now, the higher priced item could be $500 and the lower priced item could be $400, but the lower priced item now seems far, far cheaper by contrast. There's something that takes place in the customer's mind. So always when you're presenting different items, always start with the highest priced item and then drop to the lowest price, because the contrast is distorted. And store after store that started off showing people the most expensive items in the store and then going to a less expensive item found that people thought it was much cheaper and spent much more than they expected. Now let me give you an example of how all these work. Have you ever been in a supermarket where you're walking around the supermarket and a person gives you a sample of a piece of food that's for sale on a special that day? Look at how these work. First of all, they give you a sample and you take it. Once you take it from a person in the supermarket or a piece of paper on the street, now you feel that you owe them something. You want to reciprocate. They have triggered the desire for reciprocity and obligation by giving you something that you've tasted and enjoyed and felt good about. Well, now you eat it. Having eaten it, they say, how do you like it? You say, it tastes pretty good. They've triggered commitment and consistency. You said it tasted good. You ate it. So now, in order to be consistent with what you've said, you have to do something else. The third thing is you see others around there tasting and buying it, and you think, well, they're tasting and buying it, social proof. They are obviously not foolish people. They're my neighbors. They're people that I know as well, and they like it, so it must be okay. The girl who's handing it out, she's nice and friendly. She's likable. She's pleasant. You kind of like her. She's got a nice smile. So you kind of like her, so you like the product that she represents. She's triggered liking. So now she's triggered reciprocity and obligation. She's triggered commitment and consistency. She's triggered social proof and liking. And it's offered in a large supermarket that you respect because you go there on a regular basis, so it has the authority of this large supermarket chain behind it. It must be good if it's in the hallway here, so she's triggered authority. Then she says there's a special offer just today, and triggered the buying trigger of scarcity. This is your only chance to get this at this price. And finally, the contrast principle. It's contrasted with others. It's new, it's better, it tastes better, it's cheaper, it's a special, and so on. So virtually all of your hot buttons have been pushed in one single demonstration by them giving you a little something to eat. Okay, the final 2 words that we're going to use are, first of all, the word because. Because is a very powerful word we're taught from the time that we're children to feel that a logical answer comes after the word because. And recommend is a powerful word because people that we respect recommend things, they don't sell things. So when you come to the end of a sales conversation, you always say, instead of you should get this or how do you like it, you say, what I recommend for you is this because of what you told me in the past. What I recommend for you is this because. And the word because seems to trigger an obvious reason or answer for going ahead. When you study these influence triggers, when you practice reciprocity and obligation, when you use commitment and consistency, when you use social proof, when you develop the concept of liking, when you use authority to lend greater strength and persuasiveness to what you're selling, when you contrast it with other products and services, and then when you say, I recommend to you this product because, you'll find yourself selling more and more and easier and faster than ever before.